Ooh, brace for impact, kids. It's time once again for the Shanghai Pete broadcast, affectionately known as Degreelessness. I'm your host, of course, Shanghai Pete, 21st century digital boy, and your good buddy in the mix. Rejoice, for you have made it to Friday once again. Though sadly, that also means some of us likely have not and have expired. More names added to an already long list of wage slaves cruelly victimized by their corporate oppressors. As for the rest of us, let's all please try to enjoy our weekend before it's time, once again, for our masters to bludgeon us into submission while we throw our bodies upon the gears of industry in hopes that makes them a few more pennies. Sorry, that was probably needlessly dark. Hopefully, listening to me rant, or I guess after this part, puts a smile on your face in the meager hours we all have until it's back to the mines. If you enjoy the content, please do us a favor and like, comment, and subscribe, lest the algorithm smother us with a pillow like an infant in the crib. And if you're utterly out of your mind, you can also tip us on Patreon or by becoming a member of the channel. Links are down below. But enough of that. Brace yourselves, gents, because, well, we're going deep inside once again. Just time for a quick recap of the week, which was filled with all manner of gaming industry perversity, as it often is. Let's begin, though, as we like to do, with something positive. The remaster wizards over at Night Dive have announced the release date for their newest project, System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Edition, as June 25th. If you haven't played System Shock 2 or are a fan of Sims at all, what the hell are you doing? This is a great opportunity to check out the classic for yourself, so mark that date on the calendars. It's gonna be sick. Also, while we're talking about Sims, y'all need to check out Peripeteia. It is basically, it's like a GameCube-styled cyberpunk Sim, and I'm losing my fucking mind playing it. There's a demo, and it also just hit early access like a couple weeks ago, so take it from your boy. Do not sleep on this one. It is absolutely cold as hell. It is very hard to get the vibes more right than this. I don't know if I have ever seen the vibes better than this. It's insane. Also this week, we had some more developments in the AI Slop corner of the misery machine, systematically lowering the intelligence of humanity, otherwise known as the internet. Seems the long arm of AI garbage is finally embracing our dear friend Sony, but not in a way that they like. Oh no. Apparently, training AI on content Sony does not own, well, that's fine. It's all good. But anyone using AI to recreate characters from Horizon that Sony does own, well, that is very naughty and cannot be allowed. Really breaking the irony meter on this one, guys. Jesus Christ. Lastly this week, this just in from the Future Game Show Spring Showcase, Painkiller is back. What? Yes, dudes and dudettes, Major League Pain Killing is back in town.
Awesome! Yes, dudes and dudettes, Major League Butt Kicking is back in town! Oh yeah!
From Saber, the guys who did Space Marine 2 and 3D Realms, while looking perhaps maybe a little too doomed the slightly less dark ages for some, I personally do not care. First, have you seen the original Painkiller games? This literally looks exactly the same. Secondly, themes that look like the back of an 80s metal band album plus 9 Inch Nails coated industrial music and boomer shooter gameplay are like almost my entire list of all my favorite video game shit ever. So while yes, sure, I think anyone can see that it's certainly riffing a little bit on many areas of recent and upcoming Doom hits, I think the better question is,
Do I give a fuck?
Finally tonight, for our main story, we, like everyone else, are going to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, the latest in Ubisoft's series of experiments designed to determine the absolute theoretical limit to which their customers can be exploited for monetary gain, and to perhaps once and for all, answer the question, is it possible to make the drama surrounding a game more entertaining than the game itself? I think we all maybe have our own answers for that. Now, from what I'm hearing, people generally think the so-called modern Assassin's Creed gameplay formula is very well implemented here. The graphics are nice, stealth systems work great, the environments look good, and everyone seems to agree the setting of Japan is very nice, all well and good. On the other hand, the combat apparently, while competently executed, doesn't exactly stand out. In addition, all the classic Ubisoft fails are present and accounted for. Lazy, unprofessional, probably AI-assisted writing, shallow, checklist-oriented open world design, a microtransaction store in a single-player game, along with a general aversion to trying anything new whatsoever. But Even worse, it seems many feel the dual protagonist system is kinda garbo, and perhaps more important than anything else we've mentioned so far, it might be woke. Oh God. Oh heavens. No. Now, is that true? That is the question.
Do I give a fuck? That's the answer.
Now, for anyone who's a longtime fan of the channel, it will probably not come as a surprise that we're not going to talk about any of that stuff because, well, mostly I've exhaustively covered all those tired topics already, but also because there are plenty of other channels out there if that's your primary interest or concern for video games. Instead, we're going to take a look at this PC Gamer article, which addresses something that I've been kind of railing on for a while now. What in the hell is up with all these pseudo-fake RPG games? We see it all the time these days, not just with recent Assassin's Creed games, but also the FF7 remakes, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Final Fantasy XVI. Almost every AAA action game these days has some form of try-hard RPG systems in them. Why? Does this make them actual RPGs? And perhaps more importantly, does it make them good games? Well, PC Gamer certainly thinks it has an answer, so let's take a look. Titled, Assassin's Creed Shadows has convinced me that Ubisoft will never make a good RPG. I mean, I think that perhaps some of us could have picked up on that without the addition of Assassin's Creed Shadows to the bulk of evidence, but alright, sure. Assassin's Creed made the jump from sneaky action sandboxes to full-fledged RPGs a long time ago, and at first the novelty of all the loot, skill trees, dialogue choices, and quests were enough to make it seem like Ubisoft had been successful in its pivot. But the more of these RPGs it makes, the more the gaps become obvious. And I would also say just the more of these type of quote-unquote RPGs that the industry makes, the more the gaps become obvious. Assassin's Creed Shadows is chock full of, and he didn't, but I will put it in quotes here, RPG systems, possibly more than any other Assassin's Creed, but their lack of depth reveals a fundamental problem that, at this point, I doubt the series will ever overcome. Assassin's Creed is an action series cosplaying an RPG. Yeah, just like every other, not just action game, but in some cases, RPGs as well. They're either an action series cosplaying an RPG or an RPG series cosplaying an action game, neither of which are good, in my opinion. Assassin's Creed Shadows goes through the checklist of RPG traits, furiously ticking away an absurd array of weapons and outfits, extensive skill trees for both protagonists, frequent dialogue choices, romantic relationships, and more quests than any reasonable person has time for. How could this be anything other than an RPG? Interesting that they put it like that, because let's take Final Fantasy XVI, for instance, and see how it stacks up against that list. An absurd array of weapons and outfits? No. Extensive skill trees for protagonists? No. Frequent dialogue choices, romantic relationships, and more quests than any reasonable person has time for? No, no, and no. I would argue that you could apply that same scoring metric to also the Final Fantasy VII remakes as well. So if those would make an RPG in this case, they do not disqualify those Final Fantasy games from being an RPG even though they lack them. See, this is the confusion inherent to this modern RPG mess that we're all being forced to deal with. He continues, the power progression of Naoe and Yasuke tickles my RPG-loving brain in just the right way, and while the skill trees don't really lend themselves to build crafting and experimentation, I mean, it's only build crafting and experimentation, why would we need that in an RPG? There's plenty of fancy bits of gear that allow you to go down different routes, at least when it comes to how you kill your targets. Fascinating. This does not hold a candle to the more pure action RPG titles, whether it's Path of Exile or Elden Ring, but that's not what it's aiming for. This is not a dungeon romp, it's a story-driven RPG full of cutscenes and dialogue and character developments. It's a shame, then, that Shadows is downright awful at all this stuff. Something, again, a criticism I think could apply to the FF7 remakes and Final Fantasy XVI as well, which, of course, is a large part of the reason why we're going over this article. The phony agency it's trying to sell players on is perhaps the best example of Shadows failing as an RPG and the most egregious instance of RPG cosplaying. Throughout the meaty game, we're given the thinnest illusion of choice, specifically through dialogue options. They are meaningless. You are not the author of this story, you are barely an active participant. Again, recent Final Fantasy games, anybody?
And, nachos, anybody?
Often you'll simply get choices that don't matter, with nothing really changing based on which line you pick. The most frustrating moments, though, are when you pick one of the two dialogue options after Naoe or Yasuke repeats the line you picked, then they immediately repeat the one you didn't. I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's very, very nice. Ubisoft created an utterly bizarre canon mode that makes the other canon choices for you, which really tells you everything you need to know about its priorities. Forget choices, you are just along for the ride. Your agency doesn't matter, and this isn't your story. Doesn't even give you the illusion of choice. The explanation for this mode is frankly utterly bonkers. Apparently, some imaginary players can't stomach the idea of not knowing what choices in this entirely fictional story are canon, so this mode is for them. That's... I mean, honestly, it sounds like that's just how Final Fantasy XVI was designed instead of like some special mode that they offered. I mean, I'm probably going to say this a lot, but like, if this is your criticism of a game like Assassin's Creed, which isn't even necessarily marketed as an RPG, but you don't have this same smoke for Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy XVI, games that are marketed as RPGs, what the fuck is going on? This, I think, highlights one of the main problems that we as RPG fans are always dealing with. Criticism for some games, but when it comes to other games, specifically ones that RPG fans are supposed to like, it's nowhere to be found. Why don't you have this smoke for FF7 Remake Part 2 Intergrade whatever it's called, Rebirth? Like, that doesn't apply? I don't get it. Why does that game get away with it, but Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't? Oh, because Assassin's Creed Shadows that's safe to criticize, but FF7 remakes are not? Is that what's going on here? Anyway, he continues. Canon mode comes across as Ubi trying to fix a problem that isn't really there. Where other RPGs have settled on canon story beats, they usually only matter for adaptations like Dragon Age's many novels and comics. They don't intersect with the games, leaving up to the players to determine their own canon. Embarking upon any of Shadow's quests reveals the same hollowness, largely amounting to either speaking to someone or killing someone, sometimes both. There's not enough here to even call bad quest design. There is no quest design. On the rare occasion a quest offers something a bit different, like preparing for and then partaking in a tea ceremony, the novelty is undermined by the lack of meaningful choices, engaging conversations, or consequences. Now, that's not to say that I think every single side quest or every action you take in a so-called RPG needs to have meaningful choices, engaging conversations, or consequences, but some do. He continues, and I agree, it's particularly hard to put up with these days when there are so many strong contenders to compare Shadows to. Across the last decade, there's been a big push to elevate RPG quests. Really? I mean, well, I suppose everywhere other than within the offices of Square Enix. The gripping writing and deliciously varied subject matter of CG Projekt Red quests, Disco Elysium's unhinged character-focused mysteries, Baldur's Gate 3's absurd level of agency and reactivity, but none of that is evident here, or in any Square Enix games, by the way. Just thought I would point that out, because everyone seems to forget that they're supposed to be the RPG company. You're supposed to make good RPGs, Final Fantasy games. You know, they're supposed to be RPGs. Just thought I'd point that out. Finishing the behemoth that was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which I'm still working on, by the way, but so far, I think it's fantastic. Right before Shadows was a big mistake. Yeah, I would say so. With Henry's Misadventures fresh in my mind, the next RPG I played was going to have a lot to live up to, and Shadows doesn't come close. Kept coming back to a completely incidental KCD2 quest that I'd been avoiding for countless hours. The wife of a blacksmith needed horseshoes to deliver to a military camp, and her husband refused to make them. It seemed like busy work, but I ended up needing some cash, and Henry is a blacksmith after all, so I got stuck in. After making the horseshoes, this seemingly boring quest took a turn. A blood-soaked room, a missing woman, plenty of suspects, an undercover operation, a fight with knights, a love story gone awry. If this quest had been in Shadows, the blacksmith's wife would have simply told me to kill her husband for being a layabout, and that would have been that. Yeah. Again, and like, I hate to keep doing this, but isn't the obvious comparison Final Fantasy XVI? At what point Does any quest in FF16 come even close to what was just described in Deliverance 2? No, seriously, leave it in the comments down below if I'm forgetting one, but I'm pretty sure almost everything you do in that game is run to the objective marker, press X. If I'm wrong, call me out in the comments, let me know if I'm forgetting something, but I don't think I am. What's frustrating about Shadow's approach is that it shows Ubisoft clearly understands what makes a good RPG. Hey, do they? I mean, well, I guess maybe I don't disagree with that. Knowing how to do something and a desire to do it are definitely two separate things. You cannot cosplay as a proper RPG if you don't know what a good RPG looks like. I mean, sure. Ubisoft has included all the systems and features that you'd expect, but they're thinner than shoji paper. Clever pun aside, I mean, again, true. All stuff that I would absolutely agree with about not just Assassin's Creed games, but many modern so-called AAA RPGs as well. A good RPG needs systems, yes, very true, but they need to be tied to recognizable character progression and, if we're really fortunate, have actual effects on your character and how they interact with the world. FF16 in many ways has almost an inverse problem. There are plenty of crafting mats in FF16, but there's no crafting system. There are stats, but no way to manage or allocate them. There's gear, but there's not a gear system. Only ever one best sword or belt. You fight in a party sometimes, but there's no party to manage. Half your stats aren't real, and the game's solution for character customization, if it can even be called that, is just picking abilities. This is the same problem that Assassin's Creed games have, but the reverse of them. Assassin's Creed games have systems, but they don't really end up doing anything. There's places to go, but nothing you can really do once you get there. Anyway, let's wrap this up. This also suggests that Ubisoft simply isn't interested in committing. It's had plenty of opportunities and it has the knowledge, so there's nothing holding it back aside from Ubisoft itself. Yes, there's a lot to like about Shadows regardless. The series have never had better, so blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that brings us to what the thesis, I think, here is. Regardless of ability or money, without a will, it doesn't matter. And I think that the inescapable conclusion is that most AAA devs just aren't interested in making RPGs anymore. I mean, stuff like Metaphor aside, they want to make games that seem like RPGs. Whether it's from the inside out like Assassin's Creed, or just the aesthetics of it like a modern Final Fantasy game. Meanwhile, stuff like Metaphor and the Dragon Quest series continues to rack up hundreds of millions of dollars. Is there anything that can convince these other AAA devs that, hey, maybe real RPGs aren't a complete waste of money? I don't know, but I sure hope somebody comes up with something, because I swear to God, I cannot take another Final Fantasy game that's just an action game. I will lose my goddamn mind. Anyway, thanks for chilling with us tonight. We love you today. We love you all the way. Am I right about this? Do you think I'm totally wrong? Am I the biggest idiot you have ever seen? Leave it in the comments section down below, and we will catch y'all next week, where I promise to talk even more shit about your favorite game genre.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm